Hey, squirrels, welcome back to another episode of AVY-HD, the place where the weirder you are, the better. And we don't view being weird as a bad thing. We think that those are the best parts of who you are. We are in season 2, Life Unfiltered, and today we are talking about a messy and super relatable topic: money and money missteps and ADHD and mismanaging your money. From impulse buying to debt spirals, a lot of us have been there. And if you've ever been in some sort of financial turmoil and you felt the shame that comes along with that, you are not alone. And this episode is definitely for you because, like I said, a lot of us, I would guess all of us have been there. This is the part where I'm supposed to share a personal story about a financial misstep. And I'm actually going to pick one that like haunted me for so long, because it's not just a financial misstep. It was this like mix of all kinds of ADHD nonsense that just all accumulated into one big embarrassing blah. So when I was just married, I was very young. I was 20 years old. We bought our first bedroom set, and I already had a mattress, but it was a smaller mattress and we wanted a larger bed. So I already knew what size bed frame we wanted. Fine, no problem. And I found a really good deal. And the saga of the bed is like a traumatic story that I will share another time. But we really wanted a dresser, an armoire, like a wardrobe. And in Israel, where we were living at the time, there are no closets. Like there isn't any built-in closets like there are in the United States of America. You need to get like a freestanding wardrobe to put your clothing and stuff in. So I really wanted a 6-door wardrobe because I knew that it would fit exactly in like the space in the room. And like I measured it a million times and I found a really good deal on this wardrobe, and like it didn't fit at all. And not only did it not fit, I like had convinced myself that it was going to fit, and maybe it could have fit, except I built it facing the wrong direction, and then it was almost impossible to rotate because the room was super long and narrow and it had a light fixture in the middle. So every time you tried to turn it, the wardrobe would hit a wall. And every day when I walked into my room, I would see that stupid wardrobe. And like, it was supposed to be a happy purchase. It was supposed to be like this perfect thing that was going to fit all of our stuff. And it was supposed to be so organized and everything was supposed to have its perfect place. And instead, every time I walked into my room, it was just another reminder of like how I can't do anything. And not only that, we really didn't have money at the time. And it was an expensive purchase. And we had purchased something that was like solid wood, custom built. Oh my God, as I'm telling this story, more and more details are coming back. We like went to a store and picked it out and like chose the wood and like decided what we could afford. And we really picked out the best thing we could afford. And then it was wrong. And it was just so sad. And that's just one example of wasted money. Just like, I don't know, not because of my ADHD, but probably because of my ADHD. We're just bad at it. I don't know, man. There's just, if you've like, we've looked at our bank statements and wondered, where the hell did the money go? Like, what have I been doing? Where have I been? It's like almost like you're not present when you're spending this money. And there are specific things that are related to your ADHD that make this particularly difficult. And it's not just buying expensive things that didn't quite fit right. It's also forgetting to cancel that subscription and then it runs for like 2 years. I literally to this day have a YouTube premium subscription, and I cannot figure out what account it goes to. I don't have YouTube premium. It gets charged every single month, but it's not connected to any of my emails, and I literally can't figure out where it comes from. And I get charged $13.99 every single month for something that I don't use. So actually, team, you're probably listening to this. If you could figure out where it's coming from, I'd really appreciate it. And podcast guests, stay tuned to hear if the team figures out the mystery of where the YouTube premium subscription is coming from so I can cancel it. Because I have tried so many times. But what happens when you start to do a thing? You start to do a thing and then you get distracted by another thing, and then that thing leads to another thing. And then by the time you're done with that thing, you either don't remember the first thing at all, or you're so exhausted that like, I'm not going to go and do the thing. Or you're doing the thing and you're doing really well, and then you hit a roadblock, and then you have to go and do something because of that roadblock, or it's a multi-step process and it's just like a whole mess. And then that makes canceling the subscriptions really difficult. Oh, why do we spend money? Impulse spending is a massive problem for ADHDers. We crave that dopamine rush, right? The dopamine rush that regular people get from accomplishing their regular tasks in their regular life, like normal amounts of dopamine. Our brain doesn't recognize that as a dopamine rush. So we're seeking dopamine. And now we also live a life that's very dopaminergic, full of dopamine type activities, like scrolling on your phones, like social media, like immediate gratification things. So those of us who already are kind of wired wrong in terms of how we interpret dopamine need to be really careful about overindulging in those dopaminergic activities. And you have to keep a really strong handle on it, and also like be able to reframe for yourself what is rewarding. And I say that almost as if it's easy, but obviously it's like a lot of things that we have to deal with very, very, very difficult. Forgetting due dates is another massive financial challenge. Due dates lead to late fees. Missed due dates lead to late fees, and late fees lead to more late fees. And those late fees lead to you feeling overwhelmed, and then you just like tend to ignore the things that overwhelm you. And I don't think that's ADHD specific. I think a lot of people do that, but maybe they don't. I don't know. And then you're overwhelmed. So you're going to ignore it until you have the capacity to deal with it again. And who knows when that's going to be? It could be in another 6 months when you've accrued an additional 6 months of late fees, and then there's fines on top of that. And then it's just like a whole mess. And now you're trapped in a cycle. You're trapped in that cycle of avoiding what you need to do and knowing that you need to do it and feeling bad that you can't do it, and then beating yourself up that you're not doing it, even though you're supposed to be doing it, but I should be doing it, but I'm not doing it, but I could be doing it, but I can't be doing it, but like I really can't get myself to move or do anything, and I just really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but all I know is that I'm terrible. That is the cycle of avoidance and shame. The more you avoid the task, the more shameful it feels, the more harmful your inner dialogue is when you're talking to yourself. And that chaos is totally relatable. Like, I think that I don't know if everyone's been there. I really don't. But I think that at least everyone I know with ADHD has been there. Do you know what just happened? That was a cycle of avoidance, because I don't want to talk about the next thing. So what did I do? I went to go check the messages, and I distracted myself and totally went off track. So if you feel like keeping this in the editing of the podcast, it is a teaching moment of how we distract ourselves, because the next section is talking about the emotional toll of ADHD and money missteps. The shame spiral is a very interesting thing. It's a cycle of negative thoughts and negative feelings that can become really uncontrollable. Like it can really sweep you up in this whirlwind of awfulness. And some shame is good. Like, you know, certain levels of shame are good. And too much shame is really bad, right? Like if you did something that was no bueno, then you should then, you know, your inner shame speaks, and that's good. It keeps you on track. And then the next step is to take accountability and, do your best to fix whatever has been wronged and take accountability in whatever way you can. And then learn from it and do better next time. A shame cycle is different. A shame spiral is different. It's this cyclone of, why am I so bad at this? Everyone else this is so easy for them. There's an emotional weight that comes with debt or money problems. There's guilt about that. There's guilt about, not doing what you should be doing with your money. And there's constant justifications as to why you're not doing what you should be doing with your money, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. But telling yourself, like, I should have known better, I should be doing better, it makes everything worse. The emotional toll of being bad at money is extremely real. And it's extremely heavy. Even if it's accurate and factual that you are bad at money, that the guilt that comes along with that can be debilitating, because you know that you should have known better, and yet you didn't know how to do better. But you know that you should have been able to do better, but for some reason you can't do better, even though you want to be doing better. And like, doesn't that just make you bad at like life? Like, doesn't that just make you bad at adulting? Doesn't that just make you a flaky person who is incapable of taking care of their own things and like needs someone to look out for them and make sure that they're not, tripping over their own feet or lighting themselves on fire? Like, aren't you just basically an overgrown child who's not really actually capable of doing anything? And like, the proof of that is that you're always so happy and joyful. And like, aren't you just like a big kid? Like, don't we just have to watch out for you all the time and make sure that you're in a bubble so that we protect you from yourself? That voice, if that voice resonates with you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've heard that in your life. And I'm sorry that it's something that you've internalized, even to a certain extent. Because while it is true that things are harder for you, certain things are harder for you, please remember that everybody has their challenges and everybody has things to overcome. And that's not to say that you can't overcome or compensate for the things that make you bad at adulting. And much more importantly, all of the things about you that other people perceive as flaky or all over the place, they're wrong. They're not wrong on purpose. They're just looking at you from a vantage point and a perspective that makes sense to them. And that's because you have a very unique brain. You are one of the neurodivergent. That means by definition that you're in the minority, which means by definition that the majority does not understand your brain from the inside. And also that goes against what you've been told your whole life, which is like majority rules, right? Like if most people think something, it's fair to assume that that's true and accurate. Like if you're the only one, if you're the common denominator in everything, you're the thing in common, then probably you're the problem. And while that's generally pretty sound advice, sometimes it's not. And sometimes people are just wrong. And that's okay. It's okay to just let them be wrong. You need to you don't need to do anything. But in order to free yourself from from other people's voices that you've internalized, you have to create your own internal dialogue and replace that with something else so that you can give yourself grace. And as you know, if you've been here with me since the beginning, while I am very big on giving yourself grace, I'm also very big on accountability and action. So you can't just give yourself grace. You have to give yourself grace and then learn from it and then do better and then implement that and like do something about it. You can't just like thoughts and prayers. Like that's not what we're doing here. We're making actionable changes in our life, and that requires movement, that requires work, and that requires effort, not just good intentions. Yes? But the first step is grace. Because you haven't learned how to do this yet. Maybe you have at this point. But if you've ever felt like this and you were at a point where you didn't know how to do this yet, or if you're at that point now where you really mess up your money sometimes, you don't pay things on time, you thought auto pay was on, you intended to do something and got distracted, you didn't pay attention to how long, you didn't read the parking sign correctly and got another parking ticket. You read the court date wrong and they doubled your fine. And a million other things that come from being generally distracted. They're not the end of the world at all. There are ways to compensate for this. But please know that you haven't learned how yet. You can. You have that opportunity, and it's not even particularly difficult or expensive. The first step is always grace. Just be a little gentle with yourself. Not so gentle with yourself, not like crazy permissive, but be understanding of when you fall down. One of the only things that is certain in this life is that you are going to fuck up. Is this a family-friendly podcast? I don't know. Today it's not. You're going to fuck up. And that's guaranteed. You're going to make mistakes. And you are going to hurt people's feelings, and you're going to do things that you didn't intend. And you're going to miss the mark, and you're going to say and do embarrassing things, and you're going to make people mad, and you're going to disappoint yourself, and it's going to happen. What you do about it is what makes you who you are. We don't use our diagnosed disability as a crutch, because there are a lot of advantages to ADHD. And like any disability, it needs to be compensated for to a certain extent. But just know that you're not alone. Let's talk about changing that relationship with money and changing that interaction with money. The first step is reframing. Money mistakes are data, not moral failings. What I mean by that is, if you made a mistake, or you missed a deadline, or you had to pay a fee, so you missed a deadline, so you had to pay a fee. It's annoying. In a lot of cases, when you don't have the funds, it can be extremely harmful. But you're not a trash person. It's not a moral failing. You made a mistake. If you don't correct it and put a system in place, then you have a weakness. And you need to find a way to compensate for that weakness and either turn it into a strength or delegate it, ask for help in some way. But it's not a moral failing to be bad, to be not naturally good with money. Having said that, you should always appreciate the value of the dollar. That's something that I was definitely taught, and that's something that my grandparents really instilled in me. My grandmother would say, "One who throws out a penny isn't worth a penny." And that really stuck with me because they built themselves up from nothing. So, I mean, I will always shop the sale. I will always look for the bargain. That's really important to me. And I just think that there are really important things to do with your money if you have it rather than waste it. Other people have, like, if you have a lot and you have enough, it's your money. You can choose what to do with it. Like, you don't have to, your time is valuable as well. You can trade time for money at that point. But all of these things and all of these decisions and the way that you interact with your money are all not only personal decisions, but like not really relevant to whether or not you're a good person. And just remember that your ADHD brain, even though you've been conditioned to shame yourself, shame doesn't actually work on you. That's why you're not different. That's why you haven't ever changed when the people around you are trying to shame you. Because it doesn't work. So your brain thrives on solutions, finding and implementing the solution. And then when the solution falters, adapting, like getting back on track, right? The ADHD brain thrives on solutions, on finding a solution. And usually for ADHD, that's going to be some sort of system. And when the system falls apart, as it always does, just being able to remind yourself to get back into the system, like, after your little reset, however long it takes you, but getting yourself back into the system and having it there ready and available for you when you get back to it. But shame doesn't ever work. Shame doesn't play a part in that at all. Developmentally speaking, the stage in which you develop that shame voice, that developmental stage, according to Erickson, is called autonomy versus shame. And it happens during like the potty training years when you're learning how to do things for yourself in a very kind of delicate situation, because potty talk is sometimes icky, yuck, yuck. So the way that you were interacted with as a child during that time will impact how you interpret and feel shame versus autonomy, and like how much you stand on your own 2 feet and you're proud of the way you are on your own 2 feet and you feel secure in that versus how much you feel like shame about yourself and your decisions and so on and so forth. That's not the only thing that goes into it, but that's just a little interesting psychology 101. So what do we do about it? Because I'm not just going to leave you with like, I understand you and also everything's horrible. Like, what do we do about this? There are a lot of things that we can do, which is a really, really good news. The first thing to do is to break everything down into ADHD-friendly chunks. So you have to break the tasks down. Now, you should have some sort of system, which we'll get to in a second, to be able to have those tasks interacting with each other. But there might be a lot of things to do. You don't have to do everything all at once all the time. It's not all the bills. It's one bill at a time. It's one thing right now, not everything all at once in a way that's completely and totally debilitatingly overwhelming. There are lots of tools. There are lots of apps and automations that can help you stay on track. Rocket Money is a really, really good one, not sponsored. Hey, Rocket Money, hit me up. Helps you keep track of all of your finances and all of your bills in one place. There are several apps that can do that and can help you, assist you with your budgeting, along with free templates on Excel or Google Sheets or Notion or one of those other free platforms. An accountability buddy is awesome. Somebody who has similar goals to you. You can keep each other on track. That's always a good way to go about it. But, really, like, you guys have to be able to be tough on each other. It can't be too permissive because, as we know, we have a tendency to avoid. And then we get back into our cycle of avoidance and shame and that spiral, and we want to stay away from that as much as possible. And when you make progress, celebrate yourself. So that doesn't, depending on what your financial goals are, that doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary celebration, right? Like if you are in severe debt and you're trying to get yourself out of debt, there are a lot of, I'm not the person to give you advice on that, but don't forget to reward yourself. Don't forget to treat yourself, whether that's with time or, just something small. When you make progress, acknowledge yourself and reward yourself. One thing that I will say before we talk about the systems and building systems that actually work for the ADHD mind and that help you keep your money on track. I lost my train of thought. It was smart too. Give me a second. One thing that I will say before we talk about systems is that the only way for you to actually get what you want is to start something, to stick to it, and then reward yourself. So your ADHD dopamine seeking brain is going to try and tell you that if you give yourself a little reward right now, you're actually going to work harder. If you just sit down and take a little rest right now, actually, it's going to be better later and you're going to have so much more energy. And like if you give yourself a little chocolate bar right now, then actually like the sweet taste is going to give you the motivation that you need to be able to do something. And I have to tell you something that is heartbreaking. And that is that motivation is a lie. Motivation is not a thing. Motivation is a fleeting feeling. It comes and goes. It's not reliable at all. Motivation is not how we get ourselves to do things. You just have to do it. You have to start with something. You have to stick to it. And then you get to reward yourself. Because your dopamine-seeking brain still deserves a little bit of dopamine, but only after you do the thing that you needed to do. Okay? And your brain is going to try and trick you. It's a master trickster. Do not fall for its tricks. Don't do it. We're better than that. We're stronger than that voice. And also, like, there's so much to say about systems that this is going to be like the tip of the iceberg as it is. But if you want to know more about anything that we talk about, you can always follow us at AVY-HD on everything. And definitely subscribe to our podcast, which is available wherever podcasts are available. You can also find us on Facebook in our private Facebook group, Trust Yourself, Trust the Process, where we just talk about all of the things and all of the stuff. And if you want to know more about systems specifically, you might want to follow Alisto, which is our sister company. They talk a lot about productivity in the workplace as well. So you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the socials at Alisto VA or Alisto Executive Support. That's ALISTO. So let us dive straight into systems, which is my special interest. I love a good system. The first things first is lean into what works. So try and notice the patterns that exist in your life. Certain things are going to kind of naturally end up in certain places. You're going to develop kind of certain things that tend to work for you, right? Like if the piles on your floor pile up to X amount, that's going to be the point at which you kind of naturally decide that you want to clean up, right? Or there's some sort of trigger, there's some sort of something. It's different for everybody. And none of this is professional advice. It's just kind of from my own experience and based on what has worked for me. Take a minute to be interested in yourself and see what has worked for you and what does work for you and what you're comfortable with and start there. Because you don't have to start from scratch. It's actually much more efficient to start with something, with a baseline that you know you're comfortable with, right? So why do a lot of apps and things and programs and systems not work? Because they don't take into account your fluctuating mood. And the difficulty in ADHD of finding motivation. And like the fact that you need to grab that motivation when it comes, you need to seize the wave and ride it, because like you might have a more difficult time with lower output another day. And when it comes to your ADHD friendly systems, don't forget that they don't have to work for anyone else but you. They're your systems. It is your life. No one else has to understand it. They don't have to like it. It doesn't have to make sense to them. It belongs to you. So do what works for you. The first thing that we want to do is we want to automate whenever possible. Pay on bills, reminder apps, plugging things into your calendar to let you know of, and to inform you of impending deadlines, but like several different reminders, right? So when you have to, like, breaking down the tasks and inputting it into your calendar in advance will allow you to tackle the tasks in an organized fashion when the time comes. That's like obviously a more complex system, but if it works for you, great. There are other, again, apps and things that will collate that data for you. And then setting everything to autopay will always ensure that you don't forget anything or miss a payment date, incurring fees or interest and things like that. Wherever possible, you want to make sure that your system has some sort of visual impact, because your ADHD brain is a very visual brain. So sticky notes, trackers, visual apps, things that are color coded, things that use geometric shapes, those are going to work better for you than like a regular list or like something easy to ignore. This next one is probably the most powerful, and that's going to be setting hard and fast spending rules. So controlling your spending by rules work really well for the ADHD brain, because it tells us where the boundary is and where is too far, right? So having hard and fast rules, like if I want to spend over X amount of money, I have to discuss it with my partner. Or for specific purchases, or for all purchases, you need to have a 24-hour waiting period. Or you need to put it on a list, and then if you feel like you still need it in another 2 weeks, then you can buy it. Or any number of things that are going to allow your more rational adult brain to kick in, and not just your impulse dopamine brain. That's not always going to work, okay? So don't forget to forgive yourself, like we said, when you slip up, because it's going to happen. Forgive yourself and get back into the system. Re-implement the rules. It's okay. Messing up one time does not mean that everything is out the window. That's stupid. That's like eating a piece of chocolate cake when you're on a very strict diet and then stopping the entire thing. Like, that's crazy. That's just a little bump. Okay, and little bumps happen, and they're okay. So please be forgiving of yourself. And remember that we're not striving for perfection. Perfection does not exist. We are only looking for progress. We are looking for 1% better every single day. We are looking for continuous growth and improvements, because little changes snowball into big wins, and they become something really impactful over time, and they're sustainable. Some days are not going to be those days, and that's okay. Just continue learning and being present and being intentional with the way that you manage your money and the way that you manage your systems, because you deserve to have a life that runs smoothly. Whew, that was a roller coaster of an episode for me, y'all. I was very nervous to talk about this particular topic. And there's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more to say. And there's a lot more struggles that we have. But I just want to remind you that your worth is not tied to your financial slip-ups. Your worth is never tied to your mistakes or your productivity, or, I don't know, mistakes happen. But doing better is about finding tools that work for you, being intentional in implementing them, and reclaiming that control one small step at a time. And then when you fall, which you will occasionally stumble, getting back up and trying again. I would love to hear your stories about your financial mishaps or, the bill that you forgot to pay that turned into something huge, or the time you wasted a ton of money on some new hobby. We didn't even touch on that, y'all. We're going to get to that in other episodes. The hobby graveyard. But let us know. Share your tips with us. Reach out for support. Remember, we are in this together, and as a community, we can help each other when we understand each other and learn from each other's successes and each other's failures as well. Until next time, keep a tight eye on your wallets because, I don't remember where I heard this, but somebody said everybody likes to be around people who pay attention to them and who look out for them and dote over them and try and woo them and sweep them off their feet. And money feels the same way. So pay attention to her. Check your bank balances religiously. Don't spend frivolously. Know where your dollar is going. And then money will want to spend time with you. Or at least that's what this source that I can't remember was saying. Anyways, until next time, thank you so much. If you made it this far, leave us a comment on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Facebook, on TikTok, on any of the socials. I can't wait to talk to y'all. See you next time.